Belshazzar's Feast. I'm Paul Hutchinson and this is...
I'm Paul Sartin.
We have been in existence as a duo for about 24 years.
That's correct. So Paul and I specialise in traditional folk music, and Karen Rosler, the British High Commissioner here, and I are very old friends, and she was interested in looking at the music of particularly the fishermen of the Seychelles, and knowing that I worked in a similar field at home, asked if I'd come over with Paul to do some work with the fishermen. Subsequently, the British High Commission engaged the Meraki Foundation over here, an arts organisation, to help facilitate this project. The idea of which is really to record for posterity the traditional music of the Seychellois fishermen.
I think as a musician and somebody who grew up on an island as well, on Long Island, and my family members, some of my uncles were fishermen from Belom, so I got interested, and I said, well, it would be nice if I could just come in and give a hand, and as a musician as well, try and guide the musicians on how to go about it and what kinds of songs to choose for the presentation at Belshazzar, and so that the message comes out to the community, because I feel it is very important, one, not only to talk about the life and the fishing industry and so on and so forth, but it also has a cultural side to it, which is very important, which I'm passionate about.
It's a common language music, so it doesn't matter actually where you go, or even if you don't speak their language, you can communicate through music.
Yeah, and it's important to preserve that diversity and sense of identity that people have in their own communities across the world, because it's been embedded in communities, whether they're working communities or whether it's something they do as a pastime as well. Music's always been a significant part of that.
And this is where we need to make sure that we don't lose that cultural heritage. And music and songs talk about a lot of things that happen in our lives in Seychelles, and I've got a feeling that this is we're losing on that, and so I was very keen and very interested to be part of it, so that to try and revive that kind of tradition where people would meet occasionally every weekend or whatever, and we over a drink or whatever, domino, and we play music, we sing and we talk, and we create an atmosphere which is typically Creole, and revive that heritage of songwriting and music and dance, which will sort of make us unique, keep us unique as a Creole country and a Creole community. I think this is very important.
Divan y soufflé, l'orage y crié, c'est clair y craqué, la pluie y tombée. Sa pauvre petit PC qui pousse son canot pour lui à la piste à cause de misère. Oh, t'y sorti, mon maconnet, derrière vos smoke, non parti là, il vient tout tomber avec son poisson.
Yeah, there's one song actually which is written by Douglas Sidas, and the title is Sa pauvre petit PC, and the song talks about the life of a traditional fisherman in Seychelles. I think that song was written probably in the early 70s or late 60s maybe, yeah. Because I remember growing up as a little boy in Mobixton, I used to listen to the song, because Douglas comes from Mobixton. And it talks about somebody, a fisherman, who goes out every day in all kinds of weather, but he's got to go, because he's got a duty to go to fish and bring back fish for the community, for the family, because that's his life.
Sa pauvre petit PC, il pousse son canot pour lui à la piste à cause de misère.
And then the other song as well is one which is written by François Avlop, La Vicinaire. It basically talks about the same thing. The only difference is that La Vicinaire is somebody who goes out using nets, especially fishing for mackerel in the area of Beauvallon, for example, because François Avlop is from Beauvallon. So he's probably describing a scene where you wake up early in the morning, you take your pirogue and you go out with your nets and catch the mackerels and whatever, and it's all interesting and colorful and dramatic in a way as well, in all kinds of weather, but it's there again, it explains not only the hardship but also the beauty and the poetry which goes in the life and the activities of fishermen and people in the community.
Bonjour, bonjour tout le monde, comment ça va la santé? Dans le bureau et mettre les dents battant la houle.
Yes, well, the two of the tunes we did were, they're very popular. They're well known in England. When we talk about traditional tunes not being very well known in England, these two probably are.
But we found one particular tune, which is called Cosse over here, or Cosses, and we call it the Keel Row, and it's a tune very well known in the northeast of England and in Scotland, both for singing and dancing, and it's used as a march tune by some of the military bands too. The Seychelles and the English tunes are identical. The only difference is that the version over here has two extra bits that we don't know in England, so we're going to import that back and educate the English. UK format, the tune has an A music and a B music. In the Seychelles you have the A and B and a C and D music, which are unknown in England, and which we've had the pleasure of being taught them while we've been here. The melodies in the A and B parts are identical in Seychelles and the UK. But the rhythm's different, the feel of it's different due to the influence of African rhythms out here, whereas in England we tend to play it in a very sort of straight da 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 da. Over here it's da chicka da chicka chicka chicka. Yeah. As I went to Sunday, I went to Sunday, I heard a lassie sing. We'll make the hero, the hero, the hero. We'll make the hero of my lassie sing.
Second is called the Sailor's Hornpipe, and it's always performed at the last night at the Proms, which is a big classical series in London at the Royal Albert Hall. And on the last night they always play that tune, and so it's well known for that reason only.
The hornpipes we think have traditionally been danced to by sailors, but they in turn took some of the hornpipe tunes from older stage traditions from London from the 18th century.
Petit Poisson by Joseph Louise is a very interesting song because it's not, although it talks about fish in the sea and whatever, but the song is not really about fishermen. It's metaphorical. It sort of tells a story about somebody who sort of compares himself or herself as a beautiful fish in the ocean. The ocean is very big. There's lots of different kinds of creatures, sharks and whatever, and there is that beautiful little fish, with golden scales. So everybody's envious of that beautiful little fish, and everybody's trying to get hold of that fish, and so he or she's got to run for his or her life all the time to make sure that nothing happens to to him or her. So that's the beauty about the song. But when you listen to it, you think it's about fish, about the ocean and whatever. Although it talks about fish and the ocean, but it's very metaphorical, and this is where the Creole language comes in, as something beautiful and poetic. So I really like it.
C'est parfois masqué l'isou et tout yang à soir. Cause go poisson y mas tout la journée pour manger. Mon l'écaille de renommant, ça qui fait tout bien vivant. Mon lycée voit bien clair, ça fait taille, mon sou en sou. Mon jouet m'entend bien, mais si autres joints m'ont dit, m'ont fini. Pour tout voir la mer, il bouillait, pas besoin de montagne.
The final composition, I'm not too sure what the title is all about, but when I was talking to Paul Rivera, the guy who wrote the song, and his concern is about preserving the artisanal fishing, the traditional fishing, because you know with modernization and everything, so we have big fleets which come and then fish in the waters of Seychelles, and he is concerned about overfishing, overexploitation, and so that, and then putting the artisanal fishing industry kind of out of life basically, and he's concerned about that, and I think he's right.
Là-bas l'océan mauvais temps déclaré. On va pour retourner à terre avec mon bateau vie. Le matin mon lever, mon descend pour la mer. On prend mon bateau pour m'allouer de la vie. Là-bas l'océan mauvais temps déclaré. On va pour retourner à terre avec mon bateau vie. Santé!
I think at a time of globalisation, it's very important to hold on to these traditions which will otherwise be lost. People the world over are now consumed by the music from the media and from the internet. And
That's
so on.
right. This is sort of roots music. It really is truly roots music.
Yeah, and it's very important for the fishermen. It gives them a sense of identity, of place and belonging. And at the moment, with the Blue Economy Initiative, which is an extremely important initiative to try and promote sustainable fishing, the fishermen themselves are going through a time of transition, so I think it's particularly important for them at the moment to retain their sense of culture and history and who they are.
And although we are, it's in our interest and for the economy to exploit the fishing industry, but we have to be careful about sustainability. And the song talks about sustainability and about how we have to sort of make sure that we don't overfish and that we make sure that we have enough for the next generation. And so this is what the song is all about. And I think that is very smart of him.
Talking fish, they run back, they don't let me do.